Shakin! Welcome back. May the 4th be with you, game, even though it wasn't May the 4th. Fourth game of the season. Second loss of the season. Starting to come back to reality more and more each game. Yeah, that was a tough one. That was a really tough one. We can start with the shout out of the day. I'm going to give it to the hot dog man, the glizzy goddess that saved me after the game. I wanted a dirty dog after the game. My girlfriend was there. We like to get one after the game. It was super late, and as I'm walking back to the parking lot, it's pitch black, but there's one light, literally one light, that still has not gone down, and it is shining down on this man who had one hot dog left and was gonna eat it for dinner. He's like, I'll just see if someone wants it. And lo and behold, I came up, and thank you to that man. So that's the shout out of the day. Early news, quickly after recording the last episode, Hernan Lopez out 3 to 4 months for a shoulder. I don't know if he ran into Rodriguez in a bad tackle, but yeah, he's going to be out for the next couple months. And we've seen how that's going to affect the team. So much so we even had a new formation this game. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let's just take it step by step. Starting the game, item of the game, the Star Wars pins, the Star Wars whatever, sold out in 5 seconds. I think they printed 7. I think they literally printed 7 of everything and put it in each store. I was one of the first people in the stadium. I guarantee first couple hundred. No more than 300 people were in there before me, maybe even 200. Go to the first store, sold out. I go to the second store, sold out. I go to the third store. First one that's away from one of the entrances, to be fair. 4 left. Me and my girlfriend get the last 2. Because the guy in front of us also got 2. I guess they didn't want any this game. I guess I don't know if they'll sell super well, if they're expensive, or if it's like a Supreme drop that they're just like, hey, here's one. But that was sick. That was cool. All the Star Wars stuff was super cool. I'm a big Star Wars nerd, so getting in to see like all the generations, like prequels, Commander Cody, Mace Windu, Darth Vader, and then like Bo-Katan on the far side, Rey. So you walk in, and that's the first thing you see, and it's right there, right? But then it's right there. I understand why walk in and immediately hear the music and you're like, oh my god, this is so cool. You see all the things, oh my god, this is so cool. You go in line, the crazy lines that weren't formed but kind of formed. Take your photos. And then, it's kind of right there where everyone is entering. The main entrance. Not the Audi parking lot entrance, but the main entrance. So there's 500 people in this very small section just trying to walk around, blocking a whole corner, main corner. And then over spilling near the bar. And then they cut out a big section of the grass just so no one stepped on anything because of the rain that was there, so it wouldn't get ruined. I can't help but think there was a better way to organize that. I get you want some Star Wars stuff. Put something a little to the front, a little to the left, and then line it up back. There weren't a ton of booths this time around. Put it where the booths usually are, on the grass. Line it up. Everyone goes there. They're by the bar. They're where the kids are. They're by the food trucks that already got moved for that game. Already started a little bit shaky before the game even starts, right? And then we find out, well, we already knew, Hernan's out. So we see the lineup. Nick Lima getting the first start. And we're like, kind of seems, is he playing center back? Is he playing right back? We do end up going to a 4-back for this game. That really honestly was like a 2-4-4. The 2 center backs kind of hold in a little bit wide. And then Jamar and Nick really high up. And then the front 4, I'm going to call it, of Buddha, which we like big Buddhas and we cannot lie. Really glad he got the start, especially Pellegrino had the best start last time. I think that was the move. And maybe Brucey listen to the pod. Brucey! Bruce! Why don't you say hey next game? Maybe he listened to the pod. I was saying that he should have been up there. I thought that's what was going to happen, and that's what happened this game. Obviously, it didn't work too well. So, Bruce, why are you listening to me? Bruce, I just got to mic 3 people. Listen, I'm glad you're one of them. Yeah, but the front 4, we'll call it Chicho, Joseph, Christian, Buddha. It was nice to see Christian higher up so he didn't have to just come back. I still don't feel like we utilized him. I still feel like we're not getting Christian involved. And we'll get more into the tactics later, but that was just the first thing I noticed. No Rodriguez. That was kind of big for a lot of people. And I'm going to say something kind of controversial because I kind of thought about it. Made sense to me for two reasons. One, it could be a language thing. Well, yes, Bruno Wilson and Daniel are both Portuguese. Nick Lima and Jamar Ricketts, and the two people in front, Harks and LaRue, all English speakers. As well as Bruno Wilson speaks really good English. So that could be that. I think David Romney has been really good. I think he's won every aerial duel. And this is not to say that Wilson and Rodriguez has not done this, but just Romney has been very strong in the air. I think he's been very strong tracking back. I think he's been very good overall. I think Wilson's been good across the board. Okay. I can argue there's been a couple occasions where Rodriguez has lost his defender. Last game we saw he did lose his defender, which led to the goal. So if you had to pick the odd man out, maybe it was him, plus the language possibility. I don't know how much they're actually going to communicate, but that could all be playing into it. Also could just be who he prefers. Good to also rest him. Those are just my opinions on it, but it worked somewhat, and I will go into why I think it worked a little bit. Just looking at the notes over here, Espinosa got higher, not liked. I think we're forcing the squad too much. I think we are trying to get Joseph. We're trying to get Chicho. It's something I've been saying for a couple weeks now. I think we're trying to get too much. And it's just not gelling right now. And maybe, you just don't give it time so it does gel. Because on paper, if you can get those three and then Hernandez back, 4 firing, whew, right? But, sometimes it doesn't gel. Sometimes you got to put someone on the bench. Sometimes you got to rotate. Whatever's best of a team. It's also 3 games in, willing to give it. But we've seen this with the Earthquakes where we start hot. We're like, oh, this is the year. This is the year. New coach, new tactics, new this. Okay, 1 loss, it doesn't matter. Okay, 3 losses. Okay, 7 losses, but next season, baby, next season. Next season's ours, right? We've done this song and dance. It's not our first rodeo. And if it is, welcome. Bad habits. Bad habits are starting to form, I believe. And this goes into why I think the defense is kind of working, but not. The bad habits, I'm seeing late runners coming in. That was killing us all game, in particular that game, but not following our runners. And that was kind of something Rodriguez was doing, where it's you kind of follow them. Like, imagine the ball is in the 18-yard box. You're going in, and it's on one of the wings. It's not in the box, but it's like widthwise or lengthwise. Like if you were to draw a straight line, it would be 18-box area. But it's on the far side, out of the box. There would be a runner from the other team coming in, and Rodriguez or whoever it may be, I'm just saying him because he didn't play, would kind of follow the runner, go to the side, and then tracking the man, right? But then the man goes negative, or the man goes a little in between the two defenders, no man's land, and they're like, okay, well, the ball's not over there. Everyone's watching the ball watching. Negative ball, pass, goes in. Could be also the midfielders going in, not tracking the late runners. We are a counterattacking team, especially when we played this 3-back. Obviously, everyone number 4-back with what I said was kind of like a 2-4-4. Everyone going forward, and then I'll talk about it more later. The front 4 were kind of in a free roam position and tactic today or Saturday, so it was asking for a counterattack too. But it is kind of a bad habit. And then sloppy passes, especially when we're down, we're trying to force it. Like it's not really a habit. It's just kind of like you have off games. But today was every game was getting a little worse. This was really bad. There were times where we had the ball and we tried passing backwards and we would pass it to one of their strikers and start counterattack. That happened 2 or 3 times. Cleaning it up, not forcing it, and like just figuring out what we want to do. It's obvious to say we need to fix up the defense. We need to do this. We have the attackers. But you look at our style of play, and the most successful over the last couple of years has been counterattacks. We've been a high-scoring team in the past. We have quick players. We have it, and maybe we don't want to play through it, and we want to counter. Fine and dandy. Worked great in the first game. Got us across the line in the second game. Gave us chances in the following 2 games, right? You have to then argue, oh, well, does this work? Does this work? What it may be. It again then comes to my point of, are we forcing it? Do we need to have everyone at the same time? It's a long season. Do we want to rest everyone? And I'll get into why this might actually be a blessing in disguise later. So it is figuring out our style play, and if that's what we go with, that's what we go with. But then if you're leaking goals, you got to be scoring them too. So we'll figure all that out. And by we, I mean Bruce, hopefully, right? Losing our man. We can start at the beginning of the game. I thought it was pretty back and forth. I would say 60-40 us, honestly. And I'd say of the chances that were there, we had the better chances. They had some counters, had some signs. But at first, you're kind of like, okay, it's a back and forth game. And then we started losing defenders and started showing, like, hey, like, late runners. I was saying it. And I know every time I'm like, oh, well, I was saying, I know everything. Like, hindsight is 20/20, so take it with a grain of salt, whatever it may be. But yeah, late runners were killing us. And we didn't really change. We were hoping to get that goal. They got one. We equalized. I believe that's how it happened. Chicho had a banger by Chicho. But yeah, and then got a little sloppier, opened up a bit more. Tendencies of the game, right? It always happens. It sucks because we had the better chances, and you wonder if we got that early goal, how much it changes the game and how we bounce back. And to be fair, we were given chances and we were crossing in a little bit short. Set pieces, I have the same problem I've had every week. We're rarely beating the first defender. And when we are, we're getting a decent chance. So it's just getting more consistent with that, I think, would be something. I've talked about it not gelling super well. So it's whether do you want to give that more time in the melting pot? Because on paper, again, it could be great. Or is it kind of like hey, let's try and instead of be like 100% here, and then like if it drops off, it's like, oh, what do we have? Being like, why don't we be a consistent 70 to 80% throughout the whole game? We'll get into the tactics now that I talked about it a little bit. It was a free roaming. I talked to some of the players. It was sort of like if one person drops, you're supposed to run here, you go here, fill in the spaces, yada yada yada. Because I did notice there were times where Joseph was coming out wide, Chicho would then check and run, Buddha and SB would switch sides. They were kind of in the midfield. One would stay high, one would stay far. It seemed like there were set points everyone was either supposed to be or like it just kind of matched their style of play, but positions for sure they were matching. And I would say opening minutes it worked. And like actually on paper, I love that. You got 4 super dangerous options, and some people will be like, oh, you need to let them get into rhythm. These are great players. They're going to get into rhythm, right? But as a defender, it's like, okay, now I got Espinosa, I got to go over the wing. Okay, this guy. So like you're giving them a different problem every single time, so they're not quite adjusting to it. And when you have the 4 and you're trying to play them all at once, that's actually really great. I like the idea. We're down Hernan, so it's like, okay, we're not going to have that attacking mid option. Let's seal up the back a little bit forward, but we have these wing backs who like to get up. Let's send them up. And then I'll kind of get into the midfield. We'll have one sit a little further back, one try and connect. And then just have the 4 rotate, go through, cause them hell. And like on paper, I respect it. I get it. I'm like, that's a good way to get them all going. I like it. It just didn't quite pan out how we wanted, right? And it could have. We had a lot of chances, but we get to the final third, and again, that's where it's not gelling. We make the really hard pass. We make the crazy runs, and then it's like, are we trying to be too selfless? Make that extra little pass. And we were calling Hernan selfish, but maybe we need a bit of that. So, again, hindsight's 2020. Basham didn't have his best 2 games, but it's a piece of the puzzle you need. And he's not going to get all the highlights, but it's something we needed. So I don't remember what minute it was. I think it was definitely second half. Espinosa makes this crazy ball from like just past the halfway line, curls around the defender, gets to, I believe, Joseph, maybe Chicho, and then they're inside the box, and then they try and do a pass back because someone's wide open, and they just laser it, and then it goes wide, and then it bounces, and like we had like 4 options like that, where we had a flat ball that led to a counter, wasn't quite clicking, very frustrating. Here was my problem with the tactics. It became sort of an oval at the end. Again, that could have been it. That could have been what they wanted, but for me, it wasn't working, right? I think something that's been killing us are these compact, wide plays, like a 4-2-3-1. Anytime they get that midfield wide, and then they kind of just sit. Because we are having a bit of movement, but we're not really having that check and run trying to disrupt the play. Like, we will have a defender run in. We will have a defender run wide, kind of, but we're not dragging a player with us. And then if they're not, you run to drag the player with you to open the space behind. And if they don't open the space behind, in theory, you're open by overloading the numbers in this new position, right? And then you move, and then either it draws them out, so then you could do the play, or you can churn and go, right? So that it's the two options, and we aren't fully committing to that. Again, Monday night quarterback, right? And our shape sort of became an oval. We'd have the two center backs, and then we'd have the fullbacks out wide, and then we'd have the two wingers, which would be like Buddha or Espinoza most of the time. And then you'd have the two top players at the very top and wide, so kind of got our circle. And then you got two guys left over. You got Harks and LaRue, or K when he came in. So it then kind of became, you'd get the ball, you'd swing, you get wide, and especially when they had a compact midfield like they did, you had two or three defenders who would kind of shift over, just block the passing lane to the forward guys, so you don't want to send it over the top, because we haven't really been playing long ball. You got to mark one Ian Harks, you got to, and props to our team, they did a really good job of like staying in their sides, the two midfielders, so that if there was a switch, there wasn't a giant gap. And on offense, it really was like, it seemed like one would attack and one would kind of hold, and whatever side the ball was on, it would kind of like switch. But it just left us without numbers, especially if we weren't playing super fast and we were just kind of waiting for a breakout. And eventually we'd get a pass, and then it's like, okay, let's send Espinoza down the wing. Let's try and find this. Like, ye all reliable with the Quakes. Find Espinoza, send the ball, and go, and go, and go. I know SJ Airport is right there. I think we need to steal one of like the tarmac guys, like when it's getting near Espinoza with the ball, and just be like, we're clear for takeoff. Espinoza is good for clear off, and we're going, and we're going, and we're going. I think that really does feel like when we got nothing else going, we got Espinoza running down the wing. That's what we got. I mean, SB is old reliable for us. But how can we get him more involved? How can we get more out of it and the rest of it? Especially when it's in that oval shape. And we saw in the first game how creative we can be. So that's just something to think upon and what I was thinking. But let's move on to next week. We are going to Charlotte. Big stadium, big crowd with Wilfred Zaha. Man takes ankles. It's exciting. It's going to be fun. Talk to some of the defenders. They seem excited. They want to play Zaha. Love to hear that. And now I think we have a this is going to sound bad, but I think this might be a blessing in disguise. Potentially, depending on the second point. Joseph and Nico are out for international duty. Nico kind of sucks because I would kind of like to see him get more minutes. And it just kind of really sucks for him because it's like, oh, okay, I finally am starting to get a chance. Oh, deuces, y'all. I'm going to go represent the youth national team. Congrats to him, by the way. Then we got Joseph. Congrats again, national team for him. First team. I think this is a blessing in disguise because a lot of people are like, oh, God, we're not going to have Joseph. We don't have Hernan. Nico's out. Losing players. We've already all talked about the depth. People aren't too fans of Pellegrino and Judd. Haven't had the best starts to the season, either of them. I think it is a blessing in disguise if Chicho is healthy, because he did kind of come off the game, and like he does kind of flop every game, but that he was walking a little funky and kind of walking around. I think he'll be all right. I think he'll be good for next game. A little bit banged up, but whatever, maybe. I think this now forces us to fit a team comp that is based on cohesion versus like, how do we get everyone on? How do we get everybody on? This is now like, okay, we have 11 spots. What's the best 11? So I think that'll be interesting. Chicho up top, assuming SP goes wide, assuming Buddha goes wide, maybe play a 4-4-2. You know, maybe we go back to the 3-back. Depends on what Charlotte is. Depends if we're adjusting to Charlotte or we're taking the game to Charlotte. I'd imagine with injuries, international duty, recent form, we're adjusting for Charlotte while playing to our strengths. So I think this could be a blessing, guys, and I'm hoping that this actually comes out really well so that when everyone comes back, it's kind of like, how do you not play these kids again? But I think when you have likes of Joseph Martinez, it's going to be hard to be like, hey, Joseph, sit on the bench for the Earthquakes, right? I think that's probably was part of the reason of bringing him here. So it'll be to see how it feels. But if Chicho's already getting banged up, and he's the healthier of the two, historically at least recently, between him and Joseph, it'll be interesting to see trying to play them both. I want to just see fight. I don't want to see it. While I do want the win, I don't want to see it as in, okay, we've lost 2 in a row, momentum. Because I'm not going to lie, after the game, it kind of felt like we were slowly getting back to the morgue setting. Like, it slowly felt like we're getting to a funeral. And I think we're about 3 games away. If we lose the next 2 or 3 games, I'm so scared that it's going to be like, and season's over. Same old Quakes, going through the grind, going through the motions. Hopefully we can get out of the funk. But even if we do lose, which I really hope we don't, if we're going to do draw, I hope it's not scoreless. I hope we see fight, we see tenacity, we see we're going for it. Not to say that they ever don't, but there is I feel like a kind of a hangover of losses that kind of loom where it's like, oh my God, where it's like you're giving your 100, but your 100 is your 70. And I just hope it's like we can find something and we keep going into early. And again, not to say they're not working hard, but it is kind of I've seen the pattern where we lose a couple games and it's just like, all right, next week, it's just kind of like you don't get a second to breathe. And this league is tough. Say whatever you want about the quality. Say whatever. The traveling is tough. This league is non-stop. You put up an MLS map compared to a European map. The travel is insane. The guys are on go, 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 go. You got to just go. Every professional does, but you are going here. Now we're traveling all the way to Charlotte. That's crazy. That's a far travel for the body, and it adds up. So I'm hoping we are maybe not rejuvenated because I think we maybe need a win or two after that, but we're like, hey, let's go. We're not going to be the team and just, okay, play this weekend. Okay, play this weekend, see what happens. Like, no, we need to fix this. Let's go. So that's what I want from this game. But leave a comment down below. What do you want? What do you want to see from the game? What's been missing for you? Any other comments? No. Everybody's favorite moment, if anyone even makes it this far. The Tommy Thompson GOAT of the match. It has to be Chicho for me because it was a banger. It was a great goal. And I don't think there was really many things that stood out for me. I don't think there was the best to play here or there. I was gonna say anywhere. Ian Harks. It was a buck average game. I don't think we played the best. I don't think the tactics ended up working the best. And then I did not like how it ended in that oval shape. And then we kind of just threw everyone at it at the end. Makes sense. So Chicho got the goal, so I got to give him that. Who was your Tommy Thompson? Go to the match.